Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges. And subscribe to us wherever you listen, including YouTube.
And if you like this show, give us a 5-star review, like, subscribe, whatever.
And as always, we talk judging in MMA. You should familiarize yourself with the criteria. Go read it at abcboxing.com.
Dan, obviously this was a non-UFC weekend, not a non-fight weekend. There, as you know, I was kind of giving myself a break from MMA for the weekend, but I know that there was some fun fights going on elsewhere in the world, outside of the major North American promotions. Anyway, sounds like a lot of I don't know, from what I saw, a lot of fight fans were having a really good time. There were some really excellent fights going on, but I just kind of gave myself a bit of a break. We don't get too many of them.
Yeah, I think Cage Warriors had a double event this weekend.
They had a double event. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, I didn't get to watch it.
I probably will try to find like kind of highlights or maybe someone be like, listen, what am I supposed to go watch? And I'll try to go watch that, because I like to kind of see what's going on in some of the other promotions. It's so hard, and I've been so busy with work lately, so I was like, I need to rest. So yeah, I pretty much, through my work shift, we're recording on Saturday, so through my work shift Saturday, I just put on a bunch of movies. This is what I've been doing lately. It's just a bunch of movies in the background of my work shift. So what did I do today? I had Law Abiding Citizen.
Good one.
I had Mad Max Fury Road. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen any of the Mad Maxes.
All right. I would say, you know what? I don't want to go crazy. Like there's the older ones. Some of the older ones are really good, but I would say if you're ever gonna watch one, I would recommend Fury Road. It's really good.
I mean, I've seen Book of Eli. Is it pretty much almost the same type of thing?
I never saw Book of Eli, but I'll tell you, this is probably better.
Okay. Book of Eli was good.
It's just high quality. It's really, really good. Yeah, I think those were the main ones that I kind of put on today. But, I think before we dive into this, and I know you probably would prefer to be talking about WrestleMania, which you didn't watch yet. I
did not watch night 1 yet. I will catch night 2 live, and hopefully I catch up for night 1. But MLB The Show is out too.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I have that, so I've been deep into that already.
How is it compared to last year? Because obviously you played it hardcore.
It's the same game.
That's great. I like to spend $60 on the same. Oh, sorry, $70. My mistake.
New commentary, new cards. I haven't dived into it enough, but I've played the showdowns already. I've beat both showdowns that are available currently.
Okay.
I think they're just starter, like to get people used to the type of mode.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're so easy.
Yeah, I kind of feel like sitting out MLB The Show this year.
Oh.
It got too many hooks in me last year, and I didn't play all the games I wanted to. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit it out.
I'm already hooked, so
I'm happy for you. I like to hear about your addictions.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Speaking of addiction, did you watch Kingdom yet at all?
No, I didn't, but
I know you were talking about that.
Yes, on my other podcast, on the Ground and Pwned podcast, where we talk about games and fights. Free ad for myself. No, I haven't gotten into that one yet. Okay. I need a time where like I can sit down and be like, I don't like watching stuff that I haven't seen before when I'm distracted, and basically I've just been distracted since then.
I am curious to know what you think of it, because I kind of feel like you might not like it.
Why do you think I won't like it?
I think
why me in particular?
Because I don't. But you do like that. You like that show Playmakers, so you didn't.
Playmakers is fantastic.
Like, because they highlighted the bad part of MMA.
There are no bad parts of MMA. How dare you?
Like the dark side of it.
Everybody in the sport is amazing, and no one's ever done anything wrong. Just don't read the news.
Like I think it paints MMA in a terrible light. The show, but I love it. It's very entertaining.
All right.
So I don't know where you're gonna stand on it.
I don't know. I mean, look, I can see the warts in the sport, whether they're the ones inside or the ones outside the cage.
But there's some that you don't even think about, and you're like, "Wow, really? That happens?"
Yeah, but
and it's like, oh,
see, I'm gonna end up watching this show knowing that it's a scripted drama, and I'll try to at least take that in mind when I'm watching some of this stuff.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll just ask fighters like, "Yo, is this real, yo?" I'll text some of the men and women I text with, see what they think. Yeah, I'll get to it. I had kind of avoided it. I don't know why. I know a lot of people started watching it. When Co-Main Event was doing a watch, I was like, maybe, but I kind of skipped it.
I still haven't seen the third season because I kind of stumbled across a spoiler on accident.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, oh, all right. Kind of know what happened, so.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I was trying to forget, but I can't forget. So I just got to watch it at some point.
Before I do forget, because we have an interesting show that we've got ahead of us for this one. That's obviously not going into any contested rounds. We're not even doing a past judgment. But before we get into that, before I forget, Pinewood Derby, sir. I think I have to close the book on this for our listeners.
For 2022. 2023 is done the story.
Oh, no, for sure. I probably have like 9 or 10 more cars to make between my two boys.
Really? They do that many?
Yeah, well, I made 5 as a kid. I still have all mine.
Now, do they do it in the Boy Scouts too? Or just Cub Scouts?
It's just Cub Scouts is my understanding. I have we're not figuring him to go to Boy Scouts or not. He can make that decision years from now. I
know what the cutoff was.
So I did Cub Scouts. You didn't do Cub Scouts, right?
I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. So I did Cub Scouts from like 1st grade all the way through like 5th or 6th, whenever it was that you get the Arrow of Light, which is essentially the end of the road for Cub Scouts, and then you can move on to Boy Scouts. And I went to one meeting as my parents requested, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's
Cub Scouts was enough. I don't really want to go camping.
Yeah, let's just go gaming.
Yeah, for real. If Cub Scouts was about playing video games and basketball, I would have been all in. Like that would have been the life. But yeah, I didn't go camping for the first time until the pandemic. So that tells you how interested I was in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as for my son, who is 6.5, he's in 1st grade. We made his car Chocolaka 36. It ended up looking like a chocolate bar. It was nice and shiny brown, and he drew little squares on it to kind of like he was trying to match like a Hershey bar. It definitely didn't look like exactly like a Hershey bar with the squares, but he just kind of was going for like a look.
Like
and he was
Hershey
happy
bar.
for it. Yeah, he wrote his name on it. He put a number on it. It was just Chocolaka, and then he added a number 36. I don't know why he picked 36. It just kind of happened. And then so he's like, no, now it's Chocolaka 36. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, dude. But yeah, he was so excited, and he's running it. I think he ended up getting to run the car. It was 7 times. It should have been 6, but it was 7 because they had to redo. He actually had to redo his best run.
How's that work?
So one of the cars, this is the one I think I might have even put on social media. One of the cars on his run when he did the fastest, which they put the time as 184 point something miles an hour. I'm like, there's no way in hell that these cars are going that, like they would hurt someone. It's like a bullet. So there's no way that happened.
Maybe it's just like a calculation of.
I don't know what it was, but anyway, it went down the ramp and got to the end in like 2.6 something seconds, which whatever that is. But anyway, that was his quickest run, and it got negated because the car. It was a 3-lane track on the other end. He was on one end, there was the car on the other. Lost a wheel or something like that and crashed, and it like got messed up. So they had to run all the cars again, but they didn't count that run.
Count?
I don't know. I thought that was stupid because he actually ran the slowest. That car ran the slowest of all of them. And I'm not like seriously, I wasn't competitive about it, and my son didn't care, so it was fine. But I'm like, I'm still confused why they didn't count it. It just didn't make any sense.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In NASCAR, you crash, you're eliminated.
They should have just let that one car go again. That would have been fine.
Yeah, let him drive again.
The one thing that I really did not like about the way our troop did it, and I'll hold out all that information because I don't want any identifiers, but. The way our troop did it, or his troop did it, or pack, excuse me. For Cub Scouts, it's pack. Troop is Boy Scouts. But his pack, they ran all of the dens, which are essentially the grade groups. They ran all of the dens like mixed together rather than having my son race against his friends in his den.
Okay.
Which I thought was stupid. I'm like, let the kids like go together, then they can have that. Like it didn't matter, but they could have all gotten into it. I think it would have been more fun. So I didn't really love that element of it. But my son took second in his den.
Okay.
And realistically, he would have been first if it wasn't for that. He doesn't care. He's happy he got a trophy, so it's fine with me. And I think he probably had like the 3rd fastest car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chocolaka 36.
Chocolaka 36
was a famer.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely better than any car I made with my dad. My dad and I did a pretty decent job, but I think his was way better.
Is Chocolaka on display at the house?
Chocolaka is hidden in display in a sense. He's in our china cabinet.
Okay.
Behind artwork that has been put up there by the boys.
Okay.
Because they most assuredly will destroy this thing because they are not careful little boys. And I just don't want them ruining their own car before it's like, or well, my son ruining his own car before he has the chance to really appreciate it. Like when he's older, he can do what he wants with it. But I know right now
you're the preserver.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
He bought, so it just as an example, when we went to Florida, his souvenir, and he used his own money, his souvenir was a 50th anniversary Disney tractor trailer.
Okay.
Right? It's already broken. We went in February. It broke in like a couple weeks. And actually, his brother, my other little guy, he bought, it was neither of these are like really meant for play. They're really more for display, to be fair. But my youngest bought the monorail, which was not an anniversary monorail. It was just a regular monorail.
Mm-hmm.
And this monorail, my oldest broke within seconds of opening it. Like literally like gave it to him and just pulled it apart. Didn't mean to. Like it was not malicious, not anything. He just figured he could take it apart and nope, weren't supposed to do that.
I did that with beer mugs. Taking them out of their packaging and just broken.
Well, you did that as an adult, so that's a little more shame there. But on the whole, Pinewood Derby went fantastic. He can't wait to do it again next year.
Awesome.
For one thing he said though, this was great. One thing he said was that next year he wants to make a really slow car. I'm like, okay, we could do that. We could just like go against the grain and try to make it as unaerodynamic and like poorly designed and just to see how slow it could possibly get. I don't know. I think he already moved away from that, but it actually made me think that could be fun.
It might be, yeah.
just do everything wrong.
You got to build a test track too.
No, I'm not doing it.
No,
I don't care that much.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm not seriously. I'm not that competitive about it. Like the main impetus for even going as far as we did, because it sounds like we did more than some of the other families did. Granted, it was very short notice. That's another story. But I just thought he'd be interested in the engineering principles behind it, because he already wants to be an engineer when he grows up. That's what he's kind of decided. We had told him a while ago he wanted to be a construction worker for a while. Okay, and then we kind of said, hey, listen, I think you're nothing against construction work at all. My son's not going to be a big guy. He's probably not going to be a very strong guy. He's just not the most physical type, but his brain is amazing. And I think he
can be the foreman.
Really, he just wants to build things. So he thought construction workers did that. And we said, it's kind of more like engineers and architects. He's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Yeah. So that was really how that came about.
All right.
So we'll see. But I think that's enough Pinewood Derby. I think everybody's had enough of that. So that's our show. Thanks for No. We've got a good show for you guys. This one, hopefully it's going to be a mix of fun, a mix of crazy, and hopefully a mix of, thought-provoking, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the show that was birthed out of a tweet that I put out on March 21st. The tweet said, serious question for those who trash MMA judging, especially fellow media members. What real workable solution do you suggest? Think out the whole process and its viability. Now, I was hoping to just get like maybe a couple of media members to respond. Most of my stuff doesn't really catch on with like topics and things like that. And I was just hoping maybe a couple people in the media would be like, hey, maybe we could do this. No. It like went. It's not like it like took over the internet, but for me, it was a very engaged discussion, and they definitely mostly ignored the think out the whole process and its viability part. But we got a lot of results here, Dan.
Lot of participants.
So the impetus was here, obviously, like come up with ideas to improve MMA judging. My thinking was hopefully get some well thought out ideas, and some of them weren't. But I think Dan and I, we basically just agreed, right, that we kind of have to go into all these and at least just talk about them. And like, at least let's just examine the viability of them, right?
Yep.
So I made a giant list of everything. Now, some things were similar enough that I kind of lumped them together. And some things are going to be kind of on the same subject here. Like there's a couple of them are going to have to do with, one topic, and a couple have to do another. So we're going to go down here. We've got a lot of them, but I think it's probably going to go pretty quick, Dan.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, why don't you name which ones we're going to start with first, sir?
Well, how about we start with this? They want to move the judges away from the cage side area because they want to be able to put them in a soundproof room where they cannot be swayed by any commentary, any commentary if they do happen
or
to
the
hear
crowd,
that, or crowd noise.
And they also want monitor or monitors, like multi-angle kind of situation here. Like, I imagine that the thinking behind, I forget who suggested this, some rando. The thinking there is probably like you put them in like a TV truck, and they get like 7 or 8 camera angles that they could look at. Like, yeah, that's gonna help.
Listen, I can't watch football Sundays in a bar because I don't know what TV to watch. Even if the same game is on all the TVs, I don't know which one to watch. I'm on a swivel the whole time. That's I just don't see that being possible.
So what do you think of this idea? Because obviously, look, Dan and I are not going to love a lot of these ideas, but we're trying to at least kind of approach them in earnest. Like, what do you think?
A while back, I probably would have said, okay, I'd be okay with having judges say, you have the 3 cage side, which are official, but then I wouldn't mind if they had like 7 in the back.
7 more?
Like, or not just, not in the back, but like at home maybe.
Oh, okay.
Watching and submitting scores to the commission as how they see to use as a training tool, perhaps.
Okay, so those would not count, but more
they
just
wouldn't
like
count,
as a check,
no.
is what you're saying? Okay.
More of a
obviously this was an older thought of yours.
Yes,
not
this was an older thought. More, I guess, to see if how in tune cage side is and how important it is to be cage side as opposed to watching on TV, and the different perspective you get, and if everyone's seeing it kind of the same. Scott is enjoying
I'm riveted.
Some cookie dough.
I'm riveted. Go on.
But I think that idea died at the last pay-per-view, Covington versus Masvidal, with the technical issue. Because is the fight just an auto draw or no contest if the judges lose their feed?
Yeah, this is a huge problem with this idea. Like, it's just a fundamental issue, because what happens if the feed goes out? You can't just rely on the judges having not seen anything. At that point, it's just a whole cluster. This idea is dead because of the exact reason you say.
Has to be.
It can't even be like approached for any other like process of ability to be able to make it work, because it already is flawed.
Yeah, there's just too much can go wrong. Man, the biggest fight of the year. So say we do get John Jones versus Francis Ngannou, and this is the way they're going to score this fight.
It would be
and
insane.
It goes out.
It would be insane. You couldn't. What are you supposed to say? Like, let's say this goes out. Better example, even. Let's say it goes out in one of the rounds, like let's say round 3, 4, or 5, particularly 5, of Holloway and Volkanovski.
Oh yeah,
I mean, shoot. What are we supposed to say? Oh yeah, the judges sorry. They actually like literally couldn't watch 45 seconds of the fight. What? They're supposed to decide the championship based on not everything that those guys did? It's stupid. It doesn't work. It really just doesn't work. That's the viability question that I was talking about here. It's not viable.
Doesn't work, and another thing doesn't work, but I like this idea a lot better. I texted you about it earlier in the week. I just think it would be a funny visual if all 3 judges were in the cage with them scoring the fight. Like they're running around with Herb Dean, trying to get a better view of things.
You got Sal D'Amato is kind of like just like peeking in, trying to see. Like I'm picturing somebody like sprawled out, like on the ground, like trying to peek in there. Yeah. See, like, hey, how's he doing? It's not gonna work, but it's funny. Yeah. It's funny.
That's not viable either.
Another solution, because they had said, moving the judges right away from cage side is a problem. We know why. But what about giving them a better angle than below the action? Because this was suggested by somebody. Because obviously,
I think I've suggested it before, or similar ideas, like kind of like the elimination chamber pod, or like a tennis judge.
Yeah, the tennis judge makes no can work.
Like you get a view on top and you're looking in.
I feel like there is some merit to, and it obviously inhibits the entertainment crowd factor there, because you're going to get them on the way,
right,
which is why they're where they are. But if they are just a little bit higher, maybe it helps a little bit more, being able to view it on the same plane as everybody else in theory ought to be viewing it. It's hard to kind of judge something from below, I would think. I haven't done it before, so I have to, put the grain of salt in there. Maybe a judge would tell me, hey, actually, it's actually not that bad an angle. I have a feeling they won't, but you never know.
I think if a judge, you'll see a judge, his face there the whole time when there's a grappling exchange right in front of his panel. I think they get a great view then. Like if it's groundwork right in front of them.
Yeah, sure. But that's that's one of the rare times. I mean, if they're standing and striking, it's like, there's lights above there in theory. That could, because I've sat close enough to the cage. Like I've never sat that close and actually watched the fight. I've been that close. When it was at the Garden, I got
Mhm.
to see that up close, but it's not like I was watching live action at that point. It's got to be different, I would have to think.
See, I think there could be I mean, what if, like, because obviously the cameramen, they get a step stool
Mm-hmm.
and they're put on a corner post to. What if the judges got their own corner post?
I think that would be interesting. I wonder what a judge would think of that. Would they like that? Would they like being that visible up there? I don't know. Maybe that would change, an element of them as well, having to
Mhm.
stand all the way up there. I don't know. But at least you would have situations where the only thing getting in the way would be, let's say, two fighters are standing directly in front of each other where you can't see the action, or if the referee walks in front of the way. You're at least getting rid of the poles.
Yeah.
But then that kind of goes back to what you were saying about having the angle being down low for the grappling exchanges. You're never going to be close enough to a grappling exchange.
Are you allowed to move off it?
I guess that would be a question too.
To,
So
you know,
I don't know.
Squat down.
That's an interesting thought. I feel like there's at least the thought there that, I'd be curious what an official would say about that. But yeah, it seems like hard to work.
Yeah.
Instant replay and strike takedown total stats availability during a fight, even if it's unofficial, someone has said, by the way. What do you think of this one?
Well, I think that's just insane.
Yeah.
You don't need anything to help skew them. Let them make their decision based on what they see.
Well, when are they supposed to, the problem I have is, like, when are they supposed to watch instant replay?
Oh, yeah.
The scores, they got to turn their scores in the moment the fight ends. Like, if you watch a judge, anyone who's ever, like, watched fighting, if you ever pay attention to the judges at the very end of the round, they're, like, already writing their scores down before the fighters get back to their corners. It's done.
Oh, yeah.
It's done. You're not going to watch it mid-round because you have to watch everything else that's going on.
Yeah, there's no way you can't watch instant replay.
You're supposed to look at numbers, too, like on the screen when you're supposed to be watching strikes. Yeah. Everything takes you out. People don't think about that, so that's not really. And the fact that they're totally comfortable with unofficial stats.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by God, you could just put up any numbers you wanted.
Whoever's making the stat, and I think some guy had 18 takedowns at some point in the second round, whatever fight that was. How?
It would be incredibly easy to influence judges without their knowledge by just putting fake numbers up and being like, "Oh, sorry, it was a miscalculation there, or something. There's just user error." No, can't do it. It's totally unviable. This one, I think it came from a media member. It was have media attend the annual ABC meeting and speak with regulators and officials. Dan, what do you think of this one?
I like this one.
Well, of course you do, because we're going to do the same thing.
This is listen. Why should you be able to, if you don't know the subject, maybe educate yourself before you start casting stones?
But why does this help judging too? That's the other question that we kind of have to explore here. Why is this a viable solution to improve MMA judging?
Oh, improve? I don't think. Well, no, I think it improves people. It improves the people watching MMA.
Right. And that is a thing too. I mean, it's not necessarily improving the actual judging, but it is improving the perception of it, which is probably it probably needs even more help than the actual judging itself.
Yeah, it's just crazy that no one knows.
Yeah,
what really is in the criterion? They cite things that aren't even in there.
Yeah, and also another suggestion was essentially, on top of this, generally have media members, broadcasters take judging courses. So education is the basis here.
If they want to, yeah.
But
if you're part of MMA and you're going to criticize the judges, yeah, you should.
Yeah, I think so.
Broadcasters, I think for sure should have to.
Yeah, I think so. Anybody who's working for the actual promotions and talking about it, really, you ought to be an authority on this. It's silly that they can't. I mean, you can't make them probably unless it's in the contract, and it's not like the UFC's going to do that.
Fighters should do it too.
Everybody
Coaches
should do it.
it.
Every single person in the sport who has any sort of stake in it really ought to be aware of how it works. It's unfortunate they aren't.
Yeah.
But of course, the courses aren't always that frequent too.
That's true.
You've been trying to take Big John's course. Granted, the pandemic was
Big
what
John,
really threw it off. But...
he must have just done a recertification because Eric McCracken posted his certificate of being recertified through Command. It must have been only available to currently certified Command people.
Was it not on the website? Because I know
it was not on the website. It still says the ones that I was going to. It still says canceled due to COVID.
And I have not heard anything from my Connect about that information as well. So yeah, maybe it was more of an industry thing or something like that. Maybe a recertification. I'm not sure. But back to this, another suggestion was have the commentary team add ex-officials, or an ex-official anyway, as an expert, kind of like what they do in the NFL, basketball, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually do like this a lot.
I think it would improve for the same reasons as
And
the media.
I mean,
yeah.
no offense to Dean Thomas.
I like Dean Thomas.
He's a good guy, but I just don't care about the strategy all that much. That he comes in between almost every round now.
I like it. Honestly, I don't mind that at all because that's really you're just trying to you're improving the
Right.
entertainment aspect of it, helping people get more knowledgeable. I have no problem with Dean.
I don't have a problem with Dean. I don't care for that.
That's fine.
But I'm saying he doesn't need to do every round. But if there was
It's not every round.
if there's a close round, that's when the ex-official should come in and say, hey, this is probably what they're seeing. This is why they're seeing it that way. This is why this guy's probably going to get that nod on that.
And not just if it's a close round, but let's say commentary team starts going down one path, and they're like, well, listen, guys, I hate to step on your toes, but you guys are psychos if you think that round was scored that way. You're just wrong. It's this.
Yeah.
So, I think there's only one Big John McCarthy who'd actually maybe do something like that. But, and maybe an official out there, if somebody, decides, hey, maybe they're kind of done with doing that. Maybe there's an opportunity to make a little money, UFC money, which is more than the referee money, I would assume. Maybe not. We're talking about the UFC. I don't know.
To be honest, referee money. When I did look it up, some of the referees make pretty good money as if these numbers are correct.
Interesting. I don't know anything about this.
Like from when I googled, UFC referee salary, I don't know how legit these numbers are.
Where did these come from? Because
from that
there's a lot of numbers that get put out there for fighters.
Let me pull it up right now so I can tell you.
Well, while we're at it, another suggestion was actually to increase the pay that is available to the officials, both I assume both referees and judges. This would most definitely, on the long run, improve judging. I have to think, because you would be able to bring in another caliber of maybe not caliber. I don't think that's the right word, but more people who might be good at the job that would turn it down because the money isn't good enough. You're kind of limiting your pool of available people to the point where it's like, yeah, we've got JJ Ferraro and Patrick Patlan in Texas, and that's who they have. And maybe Texas would always do that because Texas is just such a terrible commission. But I think you could probably get another suggestion people like to make, and we'll go a little deeper into it in a bit. Ex-fighters becoming officials is something that people love to see. Why would ex-fighters want to do that for the peanuts that are available? They were already making peanuts fighting. If they wanted to, if they could make more money, they'd probably still be fighting, or they would have a regular job, which a lot of people do. So yeah, I just don't see that as viable. But they need money. More money would definitely help. And I would think, too, by the same token, the officials who already do this job, maybe if they're making more money, maybe they can make it their full-time job, and maybe they can devote even more time and focus into training it and improving it and doing the things that I know they would love to do, because they do this already for fun and passion. So I would have to think that would help.
Oh yeah.
Did you get the answer for that?
Yeah, you know what I just found an asterisk next to it that said these are just estimates.
Oh,
original numbers may vary.
Oh, yeah,
It
sounds like a made up number.
But it sounds like, they put down a list of, like, a table of a Herb Dean makes $15,000 if it's a per fight on a pay-per-view. I'm like, it seems high.
Doesn't sound right to me.
It does seem high.
I don't know for a fact that what Herb Dean makes. I just know that doesn't sound like the money that's available.
Right. I don't. That's what I thought. But then someone threw it at me, and I was like, oh, maybe the refs actually do make decent money. But
yeah, I don't think so, sir. But yeah, improving pay. What do you think of that? That has to work, right?
If you improve pay, you leave out the need for a 9 to 5,
depending on the amount of pay, of course.
Obvious. But if you make it a real salary, like NFL officials, I think they make $250,000 a year,
and that's a part-time job too.
Yeah,
realistic. Some of these people have other jobs too. I think Ed Hockley was like a lawyer or something like that.
Well, that's what I always thought, that they needed high profile jobs to reduce the risk of being bought.
Is that what it is?
I thought that was kind of like a prerequisite to be an NFL referee. I could be wrong, but that's what I did hear.
I don't know. I'm starting to get dubious of the things you hear.
Hey, that's what I thought. But yeah, if you increase pay, you'll get more people that want to come and actually do this.
I would have to think so. And especially to do this for the amount of abuse you're going to take.
Oh, yeah.
Because let's face it, the abuse that officials take is absurd. Especially and like the reactions they get are so disproportionate to the perceived crime. It's crazy. You're gonna chase off really good people from this sport, and I don't like it. I hate when people do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some lunatic that was on here. Hey, he even had a check mark next to his name that I just like a.
You can say my name. I'm right here.
It wasn't you. It was It was some other media guy or thinks he's a media guy. He's got a check mark. Talking about the judges need to be held accountable and they need to explain to the media why they scored fights the way they did, so we can criticize them regardless of their explanation.
Yeah,
whoever that lunatic was.
A lot of bloodthirsty people out there. It is a bloodthirsty sport, to be fair.
And it's like, but what if the judges did a great job? You're not going to write an article saying, "Hey, the judges did awesome."
I think I did once.
Did you?
I think I did.
Oh.
In my little brief time that I was writing for My MMA News, I think one of them was at least pretty positive, or at least very explanatory of kind of how things were going, and I got a lot of nice reactions from the officiating community. I'll keep them anonymous, but yeah,
you would be the outlier.
Well, yeah, I always
what's used in the upcoming
I tend to be the outlier when it comes to anything. But yeah, this next topic actually requires like several steps to it because there are so many different suggestions here. Broadly, people want more judges. This is not new for anybody. This is probably the most. I think this was probably the most suggested one out there, at least of kind of the weirder ideas, was more judges. Some people don't. I'm sure the people saying it don't think it's a weird idea, but I think we can probably debunk. Because I was seeing as many. Typically, it was like saying 5, sometimes 7 judges. Where are you going to put all 7 judges? First off, there's too many logistical questions there. But we had a bunch of ideas, right? I'll just quick hit them. 6 judges enter scores. 1 is randomly discarded. Here, I'm going to quote this one here. 5 judges pick the best 3 scores. What does that mean? Best 3. Who's picking that? Who is judging the best 3 scores? Do we have other judges who will then judge the judges?
Who's judging the judges?
And who's judging them?
We
must continue this pyramid scheme all the way through. There must be 10,000 people who are judging other people who are judging other people and judging other people. It's total nonsense. It was also phrased as outliers would be ignored, like gymnastics and figure skating. I guess judging in there, but judging in those sports, it's point based. It's a very different thing. It's not 10-9 or whatever. It's just everything gets like certain scores and deductions and things like that. My wife watches figure skating.
And a perfect 10 is not possible.
Is that right? I don't actually know.
It's because what can you give someone if you gave that a 10, something better comes along?
I don't know.
How can you go higher?
I couldn't tell you.
So
I don't watch. My wife watches it. I'm not saying I'm watching it. I'm like sitting with her and she's enjoying it.
What would Brian Baitano do?
But yeah, that what the heck is this idea? That's goofy. It doesn't make sense in our particular sport. Like I guess I kind of see what they're going for, but like what is an outlier? What does that mean? Like
the one they don't disagree. It
doesn't make any sense.
That's pretty much what it is.
It's goofy. 6 judges paired off in 2. I don't know if this is a joke or not. That one I couldn't figure out.
I honestly to be honest, I would not be opposed to commissions having 6 judges, 3 up and coming local guys they have to score the fight, but they're not in any official capacity.
So just shadow judging, mandatory shadow judging.
Just 3 shadows.
I mean, I'm sure that happens.
I know, but you never see it though, really.
I don't know.
Not in UFC, I don't.
Well, the last few years it's been a pandemic. It kind of crunched down on some things. Where you been? If you'd gotten COVID, you would know better.
Yeah.
Dan got COVID twice. We can laugh now because you're fine.
Did I get it twice?
Yeah, I thought you did. You got you got it in the very beginning. You haven't gotten it since. I thought you did.
The 3 shots beat me up like I had.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, the shots gave you hell.
Yeah,
but not as bad as COVID. 10 judges online. This was another suggestion. 10 judges online. I don't know why it's 10, but it was 10.
Scott, I don't know about
be all online.
I don't know about you, but from time to time my internet drops.
Yeah, once in a while. 3 sets of 3 judges. A majority vote of each round combined to a final winner.
How many judges are going to each event here?
What the hell is this? And also, there was a 4th card from a judge watching on a monitor away from the cage. So yeah, these were the different variations.
That was similar to what I thought.
Kind of, but it sounded like they want this one like to actually like count. But like, when is this going to count? When it's a draw?
Yeah.
How many fights is this actually going to matter in?
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
That doesn't make
no. So on the bottom line, though, more judging. The real problem with more judging. This is the first thing that I point to as a viability issue. Is you want to put 5 judges cage side? Okay, where are you getting that money to pay them? Are you budgeting more money? Is the state deciding, yeah, we want to give that to you because it's a state level thing? Or I guess it's not a state level thing. It comes from the promotions, but like typically speaking, these promotions don't have a lot of money, except for the UFC, and they don't want to give a lot of money. So it's not going to happen. Like they're not going to just increase the pool and be like, yeah, that's fine. We don't want to do that. So would they just limit the pool of money? Are judges now going to be making less money? Because that obviously goes against the idea that we were kind of saying was not such a bad idea, which is increase the money that they get.
How about this, Scott? Which panels did the other two get? Because you got a commentary team.
Well, we're just talking about UFC, yeah.
You have 2 corners, 3 judges. You have the officials table with the timekeeper and everything. Where there's just not enough space to throw 2 more judges around a cage.
And imagine if it was the Strikeforce hexagon.
Oy.
And you have 7 judges. What, are you supposed to put 2 on the same panel?
I mean, judges already have to share photographers hawking all over them in their, thrown in their way and stuff.
It is true.
Like, they're right next to each other. Like, let them breathe a little
More
bit.
judges, it's just not viable. It really is. And a lot
And
of
you
these
complain about
suggestions are
3.
so weird. These are such a weird... The 3 sets of 3, I don't get that one. That one doesn't even make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't get that one either.
And also, I like... I just really like the 6 judges paired off in 2. What? I know what you're saying as far as like making a shadowing, but that's not. I don't believe that is what is being said here.
I don't think so either. But what if one pair disagrees or their scorecard just move?
I don't know. You're gonna get a lot more draws that way. That's for darn sure. Make me the only judge was said by somebody. That obviously was some sort of joke, but yeah, that's there. All right, so make that guy the judge. This will solve it. Take the average of all 3 scorecards instead of the total.
Well,
why is this going to change it though?
That's like that alternate decision thing that you have. Right?
Sure, I guess in a sense. But the reason why that kind of gets to be a problem too is, in theory, the person who gives like a totally different score actually can kind of weigh things a little bit, especially in a championship fight. It can push the average a lot closer the other way.
Yeah.
It could be a really close fight, and just because one person ended up seeing it all 5 rounds that way, you're probably going to end up with more scorecards going the way that people don't really like.
Yeah, okay. So if you got 2
it's to avoid that.
2 29-28s one way and then a 30-27 the other way.
Yeah.
They
would start changing things. Yeah. So I don't think that's a very viable solution. I guess I can understand kind of where they're going for there. I don't think it's necessarily the craziest idea out of hand, but again, you have to kind of, like I said, think it through and really think about the viability of such an idea.
Off the cuff, I think they thought that was probably a solid without really diving deep into
Sure. And that's kind of why I figured we should give everything like at least a chance. I don't want to just be like, no, you're dumb. Some of these are dumb.
Dummy.
Here's a non-dumb idea, though, from Steve Feitel, who has covered fights with me before. He works for Gannett newspapers. All sports, including MMA, should be settled via the XFL scramble for the ball.
I really did like that instead of
That is a good one. That is a good one. I think probably at the end of the fight, if it goes the distance, just put a ball in there and whoever gets it wins. No judges necessary at that point.
I think someone got hurt on the very first time they tried that.
Yeah, I think so too. But this is fight sport.
That's true.
Just drop a ball from the top there. That'd be fun. Another suggestion. This one I actually didn't really understand. I couldn't find what they were referencing because they cited an idea from Luke Thomas. Had recently been talking about this. It was the word they used was leveraging referees as judges. I mean, the only thing I can kind of gather from that they meant is that they wanted referees in the cage to also be judges, which I don't think is the right idea.
Oh, you know what? I do think I saw this video on Luke.
Is that what it is?
I mean, I'm not 100% sure.
All right, well, let's go with that idea anyway, because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think he's saying, have the guy who's right there on the action. Make a decision.
So sort of your idea, in a sense, of having all the judges in the cage, except now it's just the one guy whose also job is to try and look out for the safety of the fighters, but he's also going to decide who's winning, which is not really fair on the official because that's not what their job is.
It's not fair in MMA.
I don't think so.
But I mean, he's probably borrowing from grappling. I know there's grappling tournaments where the referee makes the decision.
Sure.
On who wins if no one scores points. And
that's a little. It's a different thing though, because there's no face punching in grappling.
Right. Yeah,
it changes the game.
Yeah, you don't have to watch out for make sure someone doesn't die.
And of course, look, people could die from a choke, but realistically, you're still. I don't know. I don't think it's. I think it's a very different thing. I think
It's much different.
I think in grappling you could do it. I think in MMA you absolutely cannot. So yeah, as much as Luke. What I like about Luke is that he really is like trying to think outside the box with ideas. He does try to think of things that like could work, and I think he tries to think them out, and he posits some interesting things. So I appreciate that from Luke, and in the space that he kind of occupies in MMA media scape. But yeah, I don't think this is the best idea. If that's exactly what it is, maybe I'm twisting that, but that was my interpretation. Another idea, and this was a really good one. Base scoring entirely on what Joe Rogan's commentary says. So whoever Joe says is winning the fight, that's who it's got to be.
Best idea so far.
Oh, he's hurt. Maybe, you know what it should be? This is my idea here. We're going to modify this a little bit. Every time Joe Rogan says, "Ow," or "he's hurt," that's a point for the fighter who was doing the job.
Yeah.
And it's just a point system now.
I agree.
I think I nailed it. I think we finally fixed judging. Robots was a suggestion, or at least a robot. I got a robot GIF at one point, and I said, not now Skynet. There was another one that said MMA supercomputer, and they've been saying this for a while. Okay, I think it'd be neat if one day we had wearable tech, and I think we're talking a long way from now. This is true. I really do think this. If one day we actually get to the point where wearable tech is readily available in all states, I mean, this is a long time from now to get funding for this kind of thing. If you can get to that point where it can register the impact of the strikes being landed and that kind of thing, but it's still not going to be enough because you still have to see how it actually affects the fighter. Like, is it going to are we talking about like spikes in blood pressure or brain readings and that kind of, I mean, you have to get pretty deep. So I'm thinking this is like MMA of 21, 22.
Yeah, that's just, it's hard. I mean, someone's got, say Francis Ngannou smashes someone in the face and it registers through the charts, and the guy walks through it, throws a combo back, and answers it. Like, yeah, how's he even going to score?
You're gonna need like nano machines and people. It's gonna need like a completely different tech-based society than we have now. But I will say, I just can't rule it out happening one day, just because it seems like we're going
if they
in those
nail
directions.
I'm down for it.
Yeah, but let's put it this way: it's probably not happening that I'll see before I die.
Dark.
Well, we all die one day.
Man. Do we have to?
Yes.
If we're going to create an MMA supercomputer, I mean, I think we can invincibility, maybe become immortal.
Now this is definitely going off the rails, sir. So I'm going to bring it back with a much more grounded idea. How about we just let Verdict decide who wins? I could
go on for hours about how terrible this app is for judging. The people who run it, I think they do not have a respect for the sport. When they go around posting things about the judges robbing money out of the fighters' pockets, they didn't make their contract. They're just there to score the fight. It doesn't matter that someone is stuck on a win show contract.
I do think the people who make this, and I don't know them and I've never spoken to them, I do think they care about the sport. There's a bunch of people who say the same thing that I think we would probably argue care about it. It is. I mean, it's disrespectful to the judges. I don't disagree there, but it definitely shows how deep that they've really thought about this, because realistically, it's just a game. It's a game for them. That's all it is.
They made a game that they're trying to use as actual fact on why the professionals got it wrong, but the million casuals who've never read the criteria, they somehow got it right.
They've marketed their thing well.
Global scorecard is trash.
It is
I think I block. I don't block people because I don't mind, but I think I completely want no mention of them on my feed at all.
You can mute at Verdict MMA or whatever.
I think that's what I did.
What it is.
I think that's what I did, because it's just drives my blood pressure through the roof.
What about and this was another suggestion, we should just let FPR take over from PFL. Fighter performance rating.
To be honest, when you put this on here, I immediately thought of Front Row Brian for some reason.
Because FPR.
Yeah, because I guess it was just close.
I see.
But yeah, no.
This was obviously a joke when it was posed. So
yeah, fighter performance rating is kind of silly.
It's the stupidest thing.
I mean, that would be like, I guess if the robots could integrate something like that, I guess. I don't know.
But I think my favorite part of when they have FPR, and I don't know what it's been for the PFL Challenger Series, because I mean, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, were fights really happening? It's on like Fubo TV and watched by like 8 people. I'm sure it's more, but no one I know is watching it because no one's getting Fubo for it. But when they do put FPR up at the end of the fights in PFL, they did it last year, and it went against what the commentators thought. It was just great to watch them kind of like dance around calling it a stupid thing. Because you could just tell there were times where they were just like, no, that's wrong. That's dumb. But they couldn't quite bring themselves to do it because I'm sure of corporate mandates and that kind of thing. And PFL is nothing if not corporate. I work with them very often, and you know I've personally had pretty reasonable interactions with them, and it certainly helped set me up to interviews that I've requested and that kind of thing, and help give me a heads up when I could kind of help I guess break embargoes on news and that kind of thing, or not break embargoes, but abide by embargoes and break the news and that kind of thing. But having said that, they are the most buttoned up organization that I've ever dealt with. And there's a different level of attachment from the people in charge of it than, say, when you talk to people in the UFC or not Strikeforce, Bellator. Scott Coker's there. It's the same thing. Because at least Scott, he cares about fighting. He absolutely cares about martial arts, especially. Yeah. You can say what you want about Scott Coker. You can't take that away from him. To get back to our little exercise here, fighters voting on which judges get to be on a card. This doesn't have disaster written on it. Not at all.
Just kind of crazy.
Yeah. There's no way that works. There's no way that works.
That never works.
What would you can't possibly have them select who's going to judge their fights. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. That one I had to dismiss out of hand. It's just stupid. I try not to do that, but I
feel they kind of, if they voice a strong opinion in one way, at least for a referee, like there was no way they were going to have Mark Goddard do Covington Usman too. Right, even though he was there.
But there's a different level of intimacy there because he's the one who's in the cage with them and he's stopping the fight. It's just it's different than when you just see a score you didn't like. It doesn't change anything. More fighters becoming judges. Now, this is kind of where we're getting to the subject of the type of judges, I guess. So they were saying they wanted that, or at least have judges who've competed in boxing or BJJ or whatever. Look, I don't think that former fighters would necessarily make bad judges as long as they were very open to understanding the criteria and learning from it and working their way up just like any judge would. But like, you can't just say, okay, Khabib, you're a judge now who's going to judge this UFC title fight. It's not going to happen. He doesn't know how the job is done. He doesn't have the reps.
He knows how to fight. Doesn't mean he knows how to score.
And is somebody like Khabib, or even somebody like, I'm trying to think of like a recently retired fighter who maybe wasn't of the highest scale there. But, so let's just say, kind of like a, lower level mid-cardish type fighter who kind of walks away. Are they going to want to work again for the money that's available? I just don't see them doing it. So you're going to get people who are just passionate about it. They have to have passion.
Right, you got your Frank Triggs and Chris Liebens.
Yeah, they're being referees, and I think that's fantastic. I hope they all develop into fantastic referees. Frank's been doing this a while. Chris is a little newer to it, but he seems to be very, very.
Hopefully, he recovers from long COVID.
Yeah. I mean, he was tweeting a little bit about. Actually, he responded to a tweet that I did recently. But yeah, it seems like he's at least on the mend.
I saw him hitting a heavy bag with an oxygen tank in tow, and I'm just, man, this guy is just built different.
Yeah, he is. Fighters are built different than you and I, sir. Oof. Another one was said no boxing judges. They're tired of boxing judges.
I want to point this out because this one grinds my gears a bit.
Yeah,
I actually pulled it up here. This is just Nevada because that's the only one I can find. Nevada, who are the judges that are licensed to score boxing matches and mixed martial arts, there is only Patricia Morse Jarman can do both.
She hasn't worked in Nevada in a while.
Adelaide Bird, for
MMA.
Adelaide Bird, who can do both. She's the only one that actually does UFC for the most part in Nevada. And who else we got here? Anthony Maness, I think, can do both, if I'm reading it right.
Okay. Yeah, Anthony Maness is a Tennessee-based official, if I understand correctly. He's kind of newer to the Las Vegas scene.
Okay, no, he's not actually on here. So
okay,
so those are only two I see real quickly. So it's not like they're just grabbing judges from boxing, saying, "Hey, go judge this MMA fight."
Yeah, I think we've already, as a sport, kind of moved away from just pulling judges from other sports and saying, hey, like maybe you could pursue this, that kind of thing.
I mean, Tony Weeks is a boxing referee,
Sure.
but he's also
There's that great picture of him covered in blood.
But he
You
is
ever
not,
seen that one, Dan? You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yes,
Really good one.
yes, that is actually good. But he isn't
Shout out to Blood.
a boxing judge. He's not certified or licensed to judge boxing.
Is that true?
in
I don't
Nevada.
know
So
that, but
it's just a silly, old, tired argument.
it is an old tired argument, and honestly, we just don't see it anymore. Like a lot of judges now have.
Oh, Glenn Trowbridge was the third.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
yeah. Glenn doesn't really work many events anymore
Mm-mm.
either. I don't know if he's just stopped doing it entirely, but you used to see him in a lot of fights, and he doesn't anymore. I think he was a politician actually for a little. Accountability was a big one that came up. This is kind of like an overarching thing that has a bunch of stuff in there, such as rewatch with an athletic commission and explain your score.
They do.
Yeah, have a 3-strike system ahead of removal.
What constitutes a strike? A Joe Solis situation or a bad score?
Yeah,
So
or a or a score that people think is bad but is entirely justified.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to be happy with anyway. We have to give the caveat that people are going to be unhappy no matter what. With any of these things. No matter, you're never going to fix quote unquote judging because the people love to complain. Evaluate judges' performance. I'm sure to some degree it already is kind of happening, and judges are kind of evaluated on whether they're going to get better assignments or lesser assignments with a commission, that kind of thing. An independent panel was something that was sought. What independent panel? Where's this coming from?
yeah, it would just have to be like, I don't know who was independent from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get that one. More transparency. To like explain quote unquote controversial decisions to the media and public. One guy wants them actually to announce on a microphone their reasoning. After, I guess they would just get up there and just talk in the middle. Like, yes, that's what we want to pace these events, right?
He was the more effective fighter in my eyes. Thank you.
Yeah. I will say I do think that transparency in this isn't necessarily the worst thing from the commission in particular, because I think the commissions are just so clandestine in the way they operate with a lot of stuff. Like I've spoken to regulators, and they'll talk to me about certain things, but just it's not like they're going to get up there and put out statements about like, here's the reasoning behind this guy's score and that kind of thing, or I thought he did a good job or I thought he did a crap job. It's just there's room certainly for more transparency from the commissions.
There is. I like the way that Adam Rohrback, he invites the media into their post-mortem discussions after cards, as long as there's no direct quotes.
Yeah, absolutely. So at least they can kind of help with understanding. That helps media. But I'll share later. I have a kind of an idea that I think could work or like that I would like to see at least more with transparency. And it does kind of have to do with mimicking the NBA's 2-minute report model, where they, essentially go over everything that went wrong. This is the NBA does it. They kind of go over the calls that went wrong or weren't called correctly in the final 2 minutes of basketball games.
Right.
This guy also wanted to input an incentivized system. I don't really get that one. I don't really know what they're talking about. The only thing I can assume is stronger judges get better assignments, which already happens. So,
back to the 2-minute thing. I know you've mentioned it to me before, and I used it in my argument with that guy who wanted transparency. That was a media member. I said the most you're going to get, I think, would be something similar to that.
Yeah, I think that there's room for that. I'll go in a little deeper, I guess, in a bit. Revealing judges' names and round scores after each round. Essentially open scoring, but also making sure that the fighters distinctly know which guy did it.
Yes.
Which, what the heck? You're just trying to instigate the fighter. That doesn't make sense.
You want to make sure Ali Quinton knows which corner to attack.
According to what he said this week, yes, where he's anti-open scoring because he thinks that he would lose his control and just go after the judges. Look, Al's an emotional guy. I like Al. I spoke to him recently. He and I get along just fine. I don't think he'd really do that. I think he thinks he'd do that, and I think if it really happened, he'd be like, I got a job to do. I think that's what he'd do, because that would be the end of his fight career, period. There's absolutely no way a commission would license him if he jumped the cage and attacked a judge.
Real estate ain't so bad right now, though.
No. He seems like he's doing just fine. But when I spoke to him for the story I'm writing this week, which I hope everybody checks out, and I'll plug later, when I was talking to him for the story, he was trying to get some birds out of like a vent or something like that in a house or one of the houses he has.
Boy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, good luck with that. I hope he got him. But yeah, the idea essentially of open scoring was brought up several times. Open scoring doesn't fix judging. It's not meant to fix judging. It's really not going to work in trying to fix judging. I'm pro open scoring because I want the fighters to know what's going on, and hopefully it will improve the fighters' ability to impact the way that they can win or lose a fight. I would like that, but I have no expectations of that actually having a positive or even really much of a negative effect on the fight. I think it's just from a judging standpoint.
Yeah, no, open scoring, it's irrelevant of how the judging is. It's just so the fighter knows if they're winning or losing.
Intently, well, yeah. As far as the intent of it goes, yeah. Punitive measures is something people would love to see. They really love the idea of getting fighters either punished by, making them like take a course on scoring or putting them on probation on like lower level fight events, which I don't know what you do if I don't understand this.
You get sent to the minors.
Essentially, yeah. I don't that to me shows like a distinct lack of understanding of how it actually works there, though. But if another one was, quote, if there is a clear judge that judges the fight completely different, he must face Francis Ngannou for 3 rounds.
That just sounds mean.
It's just mean. Yeah, a lot of these are mean. The quote, the loser fights the judges if the scores don't make sense.
Hey, listen, I some fighters may not want it with a judge.
Oh,
the judges are trained.
There. Oh, yeah.
So
look, I'm sure that there are some strawweights out there who can hang with larger men. But when I look at certain judges who have fought in the past, I just think they would probably do okay at the very least in this scenario.
It wouldn't be as easy as
especially if they were already having fought 15 minutes.
Right, I'm pretty sure.
I think the advantage goes with the judges in certain cases, at least.
Yeah, some of these judges fought Valley too, though.
Yeah, but also still the idea of it is just mean.
It is. It's
firing judges,
yeah.
Mean. You're just being mean. Look, there's certain judges that and Terrence McKinney, by the way, who's obviously an impressive lightweight who I still see as a high future, or a bright future ahead of him, even with the loss in that really awesome fight with Drew Dober. He says, firing those with a history of questionable decisions and holding them accountable. Look, if you have questionable decisions and a history thereof, yeah, probably shouldn't be using them anymore. But like, who are we talking about? What are questionable decisions? That's the real question here. Is it again, we're talking about kind of like Patrick Patlan, or are we talking about, Sal D'Amato, who has probably more rounds differed than any judge out there because he's worked more rounds. So it's just, you're going to get that,
It's weird.
Yeah. Cumulative total is different than rate. And a lot of people don't really understand that. Yearly, another suggestion was yearly fire the judges whose standard deviation of scorecards differs the most from the core group. Like, okay, yeah, again, same thing. If there's a judge out there who's routinely against their peers, or let's say at a higher rate, and they might be able to find someone better, yes, maybe they should be replaced. I don't necessarily think that we have to just keep using whichever officials the commission has hired and just keep going until those officials don't want to do it anymore. And it does seem like a lot of the time that's really kind of how it manifests. I have trouble coming up with the name of any official who just seemed like they were trying to chased off of doing the job.
Yeah, but
save for a very few in smaller commissions. Like, you can't think of it in necessarily like California or Vegas or anything like that. Nevada.
But we've talked to these guys, and indifferent doesn't mean wrong.
Oh, sure. So, absolutely.
I mean, we do this every week, and where we actually do find
very few
at the
UFC level.
We struggle to, yeah, of course, at the UFC level.
Because you don't want to watch anything but UFC for these rounds, especially not Bellator.
I'll watch the Grand Prix.
All right, that's good. That's good. But yeah, look, it's okay to, again, replace judges who are not up to snuff, but for the most part, when we're watching UFC events, they're typically up to snuff. So I just don't know what people are looking for is the real problem there. Rating judges, and I think the idea here is like top judges get like an elite rating or something, because they're saying the UFC, PFL, and Bellator should only have rated elite judges.
Well, here's a news flash. Outside of Houston, every single judge that they use will likely have the elite rating. So
PFL, when it's in Florida, kind of just gets whoever's around.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was specifically thinking Nevada.
Well, when we're talking about UFC
And-
and also Bellator for the most part too, yeah, they're working in a lot of states and territories and things where they're getting pretty solid judges to come in, traveling judges, and then a couple maybe local judges. That's okay. I still think you need to develop judges.
Well, that goes back
at the big shows.
That starts at pay. Increasing the pay.
You're never going to
people.
if we're just kind of going to see this elite judging or the rating system work out. How are you going to be able to rate a judge elite until that they've shown that they can handle the work at one of these top shows? Because you talk to officials, they'll tell you it's a lot different when you're scoring a fight at the UFC level than if you're scoring it at the, let's say LFA level or CFFC level or, any of these kind of regional promotions. It's a very different thing. The matchmaking there is different because, there's a lot of reasons that matches get made at regional shows. I mean, it could be maybe there's promoters trying to help, their guy or whatever get fights, or maybe it's just the simple fact that they can't find the right bodies to go up against. So it's a little easier to kind of get fights that are going to be much clearer.
For a counter argument
to me,
to that,
yeah. What do you got?
The regional level could be scary for a judge because a hometown guy sells 120 tickets and they're all cheering his name, going crazy, and you see the fight for someone else.
Sure.
Now you got to go get your car in the parking lot.
No, that's fair.
There,
absolutely.
And it's like, when these crazy people do something.
That is a different level there as well.
A little bit extra stress on that.
Having said that, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that the scenarios probably don't play out very often because at least relative to the UFC, there's probably less close fights that I think happen.
Right? Yeah, there's more lopsided. Matchmaking.
Yeah, so. That's the real reason. It's just the number of instances of it is minimized compared to the UFC because they can matchmake better. Even Bellator has a hard time matchmaking a lot of the time. They
really do have a tough time matchmaking.
It's just kind of the nature of the beast at the UFC level. But like, what good is a rating these judges? Like, if you're gonna have different commissions all over the country,
I think
it's
to
not
be
gonna
honest,
carry over.
I mean, we'll get in. We're gonna get into it in a little bit.
We will.
Our suggestions.
Yeah,
I'll bring it up then.
We still got not too many more. I think we've had a bunch here. Obviously, this is a big show.
This is a long show.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure we gave all of these their due and try to either debunk or really think them out. Some of them are more fun than others, and some of them are just silly and everything. But opening an MMA judging school program.
Those don't exist.
I mean, well, no. I will say this. I think their thinking is that there would be like an all around, like all available thing that maybe is available like every weekend or something like that. Okay. I don't hate the idea of that there's something that we made more available, but like, where's the money coming from to fund that? Like these people are going to have to give their time to do that. You can't do it every week.
Yeah.
We're talking about viability again.
Like it would have to be something like UNLV because they're in Las Vegas. They have like majors that are focused on the casino business. It'd have to be something like that.
There is also, Mark Goddard has his program that he put out last year.
Yeah, that's online. You can just download it.
You want to go learn?
Spend money. It costs money. But
it's not cheap, but you are learning from one of the top officials in the world who teaches officials. He teaches all the English judges outside the country over there, and they have reverence for the man. And we've had him on this show as well, and he was great on our show. Passing a competency course in various martial arts. So I guess they would have to sit there and talk about judo throws and that kind of thing.
That is a portion of the command course. You have to pass a technique.
It kind of is,
test.
But it's like but. We have people who are saying no boxing judges, but like now they need to be able to pass like a competency in boxing. How about they just pass a competency in MMA, which is what they already have.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is how it works. And we're actually going to take that test when we go up to Niagara in July. That'll be fun. Clarity on how to score grappling.
Okay.
There's something to this.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the criteria probably is a little deficient in that regard. I think they improved it, but I think the language there could probably still use some churching up, right, Dan?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so
just clarify everything on just so we can at least put to bed did that takedown count or did that takedown not really score that much?
And also what elements of grappling are we supposed to be giving certain levels of weight? That kind of I think
like how much does a fully locked in choke that doesn't get a tap score compared to a strong punch that rocks an opponent.
I know they want to leave things
So-
vague, but I think in the criteria, it's probably just a little too vague when it comes to the idea of how you're supposed to weigh grappling versus striking. Because, I mean, we've heard officials say, like, kind of when in doubt, the striking should kind of win out, right?
Right, and like when we were on that
But
call,
it's not in there. But it's not
It's
in the
not-
criteria.
it
So
isn't
if
in
that
there,
is
yep.
if that is the official stance, it should be in there. Because you're going to confuse people otherwise. Just put it in there. It should be in there. That's a legitimate suggestion. And I do think it would help judges. I think it would help people at home. The ones who care to read, of course, which is it's still low. Then the people who want to watch Sean Sheehan videos too, which is probably higher than the people who want to read at the very least. Follow the judging criteria as it's written. Yeah, judges don't do that, so obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, they do it, but then there's stuff like where after Dana White got mad about Izzy and Jan, that the 10-8 stuff.
Oh yeah, because he
kind of switched a bit.
Do we think that Dana White has read the criteria lately?
Oh no,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
no,
That's 3 pages.
it's a lot of reading.
It's way more than 240 characters. I just don't think he could do it. 260? I forget what the limit is. I don't know the number.
280, I think.
280?
I think it's 280.
Whatever.
'Cause
Oh, it used to be
originally
140. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't a big Twitter guy back then, so I kind of forgot. I knew they doubled it. I couldn't remember what. Examining athletic commission practices of not cycling out old judges for new ones often. I mean, okay. You know what? I think that's still a fair critique is the fact that not just because they're old. Look, some of the longest working judges ought to stick around. I do think of someone like a Doug Crosby, who has been in this for a very, very long time and sometimes says some weird things about scoring when we've sat in those meetings with CSAC. And when I hear that, I'm like, okay, maybe this is not right. Maybe this is a judge who ought not to get the same assignments as, say, an up-and-coming judge who really understands the way judging is supposed to be done in 2022. So there's some merit there. And I do think that there's a lot of athletic commission complacency again. So
yeah, you can
there's
work
room.
in. You can work in more guys.
There's room. There's room.
At least early in the card.
I'm sure that there are
Get them some experience.
I'm sure there's some
reps.
solid officials out there that are not working in some of the top commissions that really ought to get more opportunities. But at the expense of whom? I think the number of people is very few. So it'd be.
I mean, it doesn't
it's
have to
tough.
be an expense of anybody. Just be a larger pool to select from.
Sure. And Nevada did a really good job of doing that during the pandemic, especially because it was the pandemic. They said, okay, we're going to hire a bunch of, and that's actually, it seems like that's how Doug Crosby got in there.
Doug Crosby got in. Brian Miner a couple times.
Brian Miner, solid official, both ref and judge, by the way. The 20-point must system was a suggestion.
It's just more a different way to do arithmetic.
What I actually didn't hate about this one is the fact that their thinking was it essentially amounted to the half-point system, but they doubled everything.
Right.
So they got rid of fractions, which is the main complaint that I have about the 10-point half-point system. Is
Well, that's what I'm saying.
people can't do fractions. I
an-
can do fractions, but people can't.
It's just an easier way to do the arithmetic.
Yeah, I don't even hate this one, but it's not going to happen because then you get into the problem of at the state level, especially in states where there's actual laws on the book that say it has to be the 10-point must system. Then you have to get it passed through legislation and that kind of thing. It's not going to happen.
It's
not
a
viable.
2018
A
or
2019.
2019.
20 to 18 would be like a natural 10-9. And then like a 20 to 19 would be more like a 9.5. So like we're talking about like a raise or close round.
Right.
I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. But it's not viable because of the reasons I said. You would need some sort of overarching body, like a federal body, to observe that. And I just don't see that happening either. A more detailed system rating essentially the D's, damage, dominance, that kind of thing, from 1 to 3. And then you tally the points at the end of the round. And if you had more than 10 points, it's an automatic 10-9. This one needed more information than I think this person gave. So I at least applaud the kind of the idea there. I don't want to just say, I don't think it's a good idea on the whole, but I appreciated kind of the thought that went into it, even if it was halfway explained.
Meaning saying, okay, say damage reached a 3, but dominance only reached a 1.
Yeah, so you
Stuff
get 4
like that.
points for that.
Okay.
There's something there, like in terms of that they're thinking outside the box. I appreciate that. I just don't think this quite hit it.
I think, it's just so much subjectivity still to that.
Well, sure, but at the very least, you're kind of not just going with the. I don't I don't love the 10-point must system. I see the value in it, and I don't think that there is necessarily a definitive, yes, this absolutely would be better than the 10-point must system, but it was shoehorned into the sport from boxing, and doesn't, boxing and MMA are different, which is why they shouldn't have boxing judges do references. Oh, yeah. Here's another one, and I'm just gonna, this is all quotation. What is considered to be a 10-9 is now considered a 10-8. What was considered a 10-8 becomes a 10-7. Razor thin rounds that one fighter edged out. Oh, hello again, 10-9.
What?
More or less, they're describing the CSJ criteria in essence, but they're changing. They're getting a little more extreme. They're just saying any like typical 10-9 where it was like
any clear cut winner,
like a clear cut winner that becomes an 8, and then the very closer rounds are just 9. So like I imagine you'd end up probably with a lot closer split between 9s and 8s under this system than what even we have for CSJ scoring. Look, I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that, but ultimately, yeah, I think that's probably a bridge too far for regulators to and officials and the ABC and that kind of thing. But I don't hate it at all. I really don't. I want to see more effective use of the tools there, because the 10-7 as it's in the criteria, it might as well just be saying you're not supposed to do this, don't do it.
Well, I think it even does say that this is going to be used very, very rarely.
Right, but that doesn't even remotely touch upon how often it's used, because we're not even talking about, like, I don't know of a fight that's happened since the criteria was changed in 2016, 2017. I don't know of a fight that had more than one 10-7 given in a round. Just
where it was a majority score?
Yeah, it's never been a majority score, period. I don't think anywhere. If I'm wrong, someone show me the fight and show me the evidence, because I would like to see it. But I mean, I've done a lot of research into this. I've done a lot of asking commissions. I've spoken to officials. I haven't seen any evidence of this. It is beyond very, very rare. It's truly a unicorn. It doesn't exist. And it's so stupid that it's in the criteria as it is. Take it out or make it attainable. I feel very strongly about this. It's stupid. Why do we bother? Why do we bother with this score?
Yeah, you got a point.
I know.
You're very passionate there.
I am. It's very late at night. 10-10 rounds. Was
Someone
that they
fed
wanted to
Scott
see.
after midnight.
I'm eating my cookie dough, which is actually getting soft. It was frozen before. Now it's getting very soft. 10-10 rounds. They want to see more of.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I would agree.
Yeah. But again, there's kind of something similar here too. I have a problem with the wording of the criteria as it pertains to 10-10 rounds. I mean, they're saying more or less it's discouraged, but it's also kind of left in there in a way that whenever I ask officials about it, they basically say it's only meant to be used in like a staring contest or in let's say a partial round that would go to a tech decision and it only like just started or something like that where nothing happened. Those are the only two situations they should have it. Outline that. Put that in the criteria in some form. Why not?
Yeah, I think that score is needed in the criteria for those situations.
But make it clear.
Word it in that way.
Because everyone at home sees that it's there and they think it makes sense to give. And if you're just going to tell them they're wrong, let them know that. I mean, there's no way to talk to officials. So, and it's not like commissions are helping. So put it in the words. This is another thing that I have a problem with the criteria or the wording of it. The criteria is not a bad document. It's not a bad explanation of things. It just needs some help, and it's just got some galling things in there. Like again, the 10-7 and the 10-10. It just explain it right, make it available, or make it clearer. I really don't like the way they handled it. Scoring the full fight, that was suggested by Sean Sheehan facetiously and by another person very seriously. Not a fan of the full fight. It's fun.
Very difficult.
Yeah,
very difficult to parse through a 5-minute round.
That's the problem. That's what it comes down to. I mean, a 5-minute round, yeah, and then you want to say, oh, make them do a 15-minute fight. Like that's not easy.
Well, the thing is, I kind of agree. If you're gonna do this, it just make the fight a draw at some point.
Well, someone also suggested
there's
that.
no finish.
Yeah, if there's no finish, that you get rid of it. The only thing I would say, if let's say for argument's sake, scoring the fight as a whole is what is being done. I almost feel like if you're gonna do that, you should just be rating whoever's in better shape by the end.
Yeah, because if you're gonna mimic fighting to the death, whoever is better at the end should be. That's where,
rather than who put on a better performance, it's that who's in better shape by the end, which, essentially is going to come down to people who have better cardio, of course.
Right. Basically,
and took less damage. That will also factor, but
basically whoever looks like they can go longer is going to win, because eventually someone will die.
Sure. Yeah. You put two people on an island and only one person survives, then yeah, I guess so. But having said that, I still think full fight scoring is not the way.
No, probably not.
A national organization that transparently vetted judges.
I think
I don't know who this. I mean, I like the organization, the idea. I like a national organization.
One body.
Not the ABC. We're talking about something more like a commission that oversees everything.
Yeah, like the United States or whatever, North American or World MMA Commission.
Like imagine Nevada, but Nevada running every commission. The way that functions, that would be
Yes.
kind of the idea. I guess that's kind of what they're saying with the transparently vetted things. I mean, I don't know what that means. Like, are you putting them like in a box and talk like a clear box, like who's the magician? David Blaine. Is that the one you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Dan's got a David Blaine story.
I do.
One day, not today. We got too
One day.
much.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I just don't understand the transparent.
I think what they're
think?
saying by vetting, I think they kind of want to make it like a confirming a Supreme Court justice situation here. That's what comes to mind when I read that quote.
Yeah. Oh God, there's too many jokes. I'm gonna save them. Here's another one. The UFC and other. This is all quoted. The UFC and other MMA organizations. We're getting the end too, by the way.
We're getting there.
The UFC and other MMA organizations need to create a lobbying group to advocate for legislative change to absurd regulations in regard to MMA and judge scoring and judge appointment. What?
So they're saying that they basically want the government to write the criteria over.
Yes, that sounds like what we really need to be doing.
Yeah.
I would love to have Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell sit down and just figure out how we're supposed to judge face punching. That sounds like the best idea.
What is happening?
Here's another one. Longer break between rounds for judges to use replay. So
that's where they would get to use their instant replay.
Yes, this is the replay.
So the fighters, they can just take 3 minutes off.
Yeah.
Listen. Take your time.
And this is how we want to watch the fight at
Yes.
home, by the way. We definitely want more of a break so we can, instead of just making a quick, run and get your water or something like that and get back, now you can probably use the bathroom, maybe even use number 1 or 2. Who knows? Depends how quick you work.
Your entertainment value would plummet.
Oh my God, the sport would die.
Yeah.
Die in a vine. Not going to happen. Sorry. The idea here is normal fights would be now 5 4-minute rounds, and championship fights would be 7 4-minute rounds. This is similar to what I say about.
This is similar to what you
I have it 3-minute because I'm still trying to mimic the same. I'm as close as I can to the length of a current fight. I don't know that it necessarily is going to fix judging. I do think having more rounds will make it at least easier for a fighter to distance themselves because they have more opportunities to break down segments of the fight and show it. It's also
I think it would help. I mean, listen, I think you have a good point to make when you want shorter rounds because it is easier to score 3 minutes as opposed to.
That's really the thinking there, yeah. Now, with that is the caveat that that's more opportunities for judges not to be on the same page, and thus more, kind of leads into the boxing kind of thing where there are a bunch of rounds. And I don't know. I still think it's ultimately a net game, but I understand why judges are not in favor of it. I really do. But I do think it would ultimately help. It would help make sure that it's more clear how much better a fighter did in a fight than 29-28. Instead, maybe you would have, 49-46 more frequently,
Yeah, I suppose. I guess the thing is, though, would 10-10 come into play more? We just watched a fight where 2 guys stared at each other for the first 2 minutes of the round.
Yeah, but also they're fighting knowing that they have 5 minutes. It changes everything.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think, yeah, there's a chance you might get the odd 10-10 round more frequently, but probably not very often. And then it would satisfy that one dude who really wanted the 10-10.
Okay.
So it's a win-win, right? Just 2 more here. And these are very good suggestions here. I think you guys are going to like them. No judges fight to a draw if no finish. I guess we touched on this already.
We did, yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
This was on the outline as it was. So the final suggestion, and this is, I guess it's a 2-part suggestion. Fight to the death. So obviously the judges, you don't need to be there anymore. You can just watch a man die or a woman. And also no rounds, last man standing wins. So that it's kind of like the more tame suggestion here. Although very likely the last man standing is still going to die.
So yeah,
Or not. Well, their standing one's not going to. Well, maybe they would too, but yeah. Ultimately, they want death.
Here's basically corners would have to actually start stopping fights,
I still don't think that would happen.
and it probably wouldn't happen.
No. That's not happening.
We can make double. Let them fight.
I know. God, need that 10K and 10K, not the just 10K. But yeah, obviously those were jokes. But no real like literally everything I said on here was something someone suggested to me in response to the topic. So what we had here was a lot, and this was the end. This was a lot of non-viable suggestions, a couple with some merit and a couple with some interesting thoughts in there, but mostly a lot of, the same old thing everybody has heard before. And hopefully we've at least tried to debunk some of these things. I'm sure there are some people who could argue and debate us on it. And, we're going to think you're wrong, and that's fine. But you're going to think we're wrong, and that's also fine. So that is the way the world works. And that is why we will never have 100% satisfaction with judging, because someone just wants someone else to be wrong. Dan, we've talked a lot of things here. What are some ideas that you actually think could improve judging?
I think increase pay, increase the opportunity to train, get the reps in.
How would you execute that?
Well, first I would make more money available.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean the latter one as far as the training.
Training, I would, that ABC Zoom call that we did a few times with California. I think if you did that maybe every other week or so, maybe possibly after every event, you go through it. Or you do the things like Eric Nixick has guys come in to train to sit next to cage side while guys spar and just make a fake score round, I guess, just to get used to being cage side. It's very different, I know, sparring as opposed to actually fighting.
How are you supposed to grade impact when they're trying to hold back,
From my understanding, Sean Strickling does not hold back. He still tries to kill his training partners.
Well, that's Sean, but Francis Ngannou's not doing that because he knows he could kill a man.
I think that type of training probably benefits referees more if they allow him to be the third man.
I would think so
during a sparring session
for sure.
Another thing I think would help would actually be to make it less vague. To say, hey,
make the criteria less vague,
especially when it comes to 10-8s and 10-9s. So don't say, hey, you can go 10-8 if you check these two.
Right.
But you don't have to. No, it should be, if you check these two, you go there.
Yeah.
Like just very...
lifts the lid. I think so.
Remove some subjectivity from it. And I like the, but they talk to each other so much. I mean, I guess...
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're talking about training, like the one thing I wanted to say to you is the fact, and you know this very well, a lot of the judges are in contact. They have, chat groups and things like that, and they'll communicate to each other like, hey, I had this fight. Let me know what you think of this. Or, I heard about this fight. What do you guys think,
I guess more in more of an official capacity.
So you want,
I suppose.
You would want, say, like, just for argument's sake, like Jeff Mullen, who runs Nevada now, a former judge, have him like take control of, like, let's say, okay, all of my Nevada officials, I would like you guys to watch this fight this week or something like that. Is that an example?
So yeah, when I was a lifeguard, every Monday we'd have in-service training. Mm-hmm. So to go through, just to refresh everything.
Oh, that makes sense. You're trying to guard lives.
Right, yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying like it has to be every week, but maybe every month they get together on Zoom or something. They go over a couple of questionable fights.
I wouldn't hate that.
So, but really.
But again, in an official capacity, a lot of them still do that.
It really comes. You're right, but it comes down to the pay because you got to get more people into the sport.
Sure, and I mean, you got to navigate people's full-time jobs. Like, not everybody has the same job. I have a weird set of hours compared to you.
And I would like to see more shadowing at the higher level.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be nice. Yeah. Did you have anything else, or should I go into mine?
No, you can go into yours, and I'll probably think of some other things.
No, that's fine.
For your ideas,
and of course you can interject. By the way, but yeah, so you already touched upon this a little bit, but like tweaks to the criteria. First off, I do think that a version of CSJ scoring could legitimately help. Because I talk about this with officials. If some of the officials know this, they need more tools, in my opinion. I think to just say, here's a 9 and, once in a while you can use an 8. It's just not enough. Like you're asking judges to watch a fight and say, okay, what was the impact behind this punch compared to this punch compared to this punch? There are a billion degrees of punches, but when they're supposed to score the whole round, there are 2 degrees, but really only 1 degree of a round. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. I think you need to be able to differentiate them more.
Yeah. Well, 10-9's always going to be the widest, but there's no reason it can't be narrowed.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree, and that's why I'm maybe less in favor of the razor thin margin that the guy was kind of suggesting before. I really do think there is some merit to CSJ, and obviously we're biased. We created this thing, and it's not that different from it's not like we're the only people who've ever suggested something like this, but this particular way we phrase it, a version of it, I think could be workable, and you don't even have to do much changing. You're not adding half points. You're not processing legislation. You're just saying, hey, we have these tools. Let's make them more usable. Also, a more clear illustration of effective grappling. We spoke about that one. I'd like that. The suggestion you had given before too. When you just said your ideas, why am I blanking now? Because it's almost 3 in the morning.
to make it not just an option, to make it the only option.
Yes, thank you. That one that was a good idea. Also, more clearly illustrate when judges should be using that secondary and tertiary level of criteria, because it's not.
That's a broadcasting issue, I think.
You know what? I still feel like, because we have, let's say, JJ Ferraro, who actually cited the second and third levels of criteria, and then there was discussion on the CSAC call saying, how often is this used? And most of the veteran officials were like, yeah, pretty much never. A lower level judge a less experienced judge may be confused about that, and that's probably a failing on the wording of the criteria. I think it probably ought to be, listen, judges don't really go to this. It doesn't really happen that often. Like, you're not going to see it, but there are certain scenarios in which it could play out. And obviously they want to leave it vague, but I think they could come up with better ways.
Yeah, I agree there. I think the secondary and third levels are meant to be used in low output rounds. I don't think they're meant. I think in these high output rounds, you should be able to find someone. I think,
and maybe that's the wording that needs to be placed in there. Is we're only talking about these when there's low output, less action,
like when you need something else, not because you can't. Because this guy landed 50 strikes, this one landed, maybe 48. We're not really sure which way we go there, so I'll go the guy who was coming forward a little bit more.
The language they like to use in the criteria when it comes to a lot of this stuff is like, it should be used not very often, or that kind of thing, or this should be the most thing. But like, just to say a scenario like we're saying, you shouldn't go to the secondary or tertiary criteria unless it's a low output round. I don't think that still leaves things very vague. I think it makes sense, because then if that was in there, Judge Ferraro could not have cited that. He would have had to pick a winner based on the actual impact and weighing the more immediately impactful strikes landed in that fight,
and that's another thing where you can weed out the stronger officials. Because that was a suggestion, right? We went over
I believe that one was yeah. Another one I had was kind of better explanations of the criteria application at the start of and during UFC events. We kind of touched upon this a little bit. Better educated commentators, have a respected ex-official on the broadcast team as well. But realistically, if you're just making sure that, like, John Anik is explaining more clearly, especially what we're talking about, that second and tertiary criteria. Now, John does a great job, and I think he does a great job of trying to relay a lot of this stuff, but I think there's room for improvement, and that's where we're talking about. Making sure that people understand we're not using secondary or tertiary. It's really just judges aren't going to do it unless it's a staring contest. It's just not going to happen. And that's why we need the language in the criteria to make that more clear for John to be able to make clear for people at home. I think that's a big important step, and I think it would help a lot. I mean, every little bit counts, better seats, I think, for the judges would be important. No door panels. We've talked about this before on the show.
I know I started tracking that last year, but it seemed the dissent percentage didn't really differ.
I wonder how much it really does impact, but that we would be able to notice. But I still think that there's something to putting judges in a position to succeed.
Yes, you don't. I mean, there's no reason two judges should be on door panel and only
for
one
a UFC event. Yeah,
and only one gets a clear.
So I feel pretty strongly about that one. I think that's a reasonable expectation that we could be able to have that happen. Multiple angle monitors, I think, would be interesting. So, like, the judges have monitors at the seats at the UFC level. It's always provided. You can't have this in the at every promotion, but what it would be nice if there was, like, let's say there was, like, always a fixed camera at, like, each corner or each post or whatever that just sat there, right? And it didn't move around at all. It was just fixed, and the judges could have access to that. So let's say that they were impacted just a little bit, they could look down if they needed to quick glance it or something, and they know that the cameraman's not going to move away. He's not going to do anything like that. And it's fixed. The fixed element is really important to this.
I do have, since you brought that up, I just thought of something.
What's that?
Ray-Ban now makes these glasses that records.
Interesting.
What if, just as a part of an educational tool, to even review amongst commissions, these judges wear these glasses, so now you see exactly what they see, and then you would have an understanding.
So ref cam, but judge cam.
Judge cam, yeah. I mean, they're not going all over the place running around like a ref.
Right.
So
and this would you're saying this would only be internally.
You could just use
it wouldn't
internally.
necessarily be what we would watch at home.
I mean, I would love if it was part of Fight Pass, because then we can actually get a great view of exactly what he saw.
And then we can prove once and for all that the judges are not looking at their phones.
Oh, he can do that.
Some people think.
Yes.
Oh, is he looking at his phone? Jerks. Better pay, of course. We mentioned that. I think we've covered that one. Improved commissions. I've kind of talked about that a bit. You know, I think what we really need is, I don't know if this is perfect. I don't know how officials are going to feel about this, but allow officials to explain their scores to a commission, and then allow the commission to relay that info. So the judge doesn't have to be the one who's going out there putting out a statement.
Yes.
But allow someone who works with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, for example, to put out something that it says this was the rationale given by a judge, and they can at least vet that information to make sure that a judge isn't saying anything that's going to make them, go off the handle or get in trouble or anything like that. I think that that would be some sort of transparency there.
Like a spokesperson for the commission.
Sure.
For the judge.
But you can just have them shape the statement either, because that's obviously problematic too. It's a tricky thing. So I understand there's kind of a touch and go there. But I do think that if people were able to get an explanation from the judges, because you and I, we talk to judges, they'll give us explanations, and we agree to not share those explanations.
Right.
But when we get them, even in rounds where we're like, I don't know, like, at least they kind of explain it in a way that's like, all right, I can understand that. That makes some sense. And I think on the whole, that would actually help a lot of people. Caposa in particular seems to be thinking that would be a big help.
I think it'd be a minority of people, where other people would just be like, oh my God, this explanation makes no sense.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people would too, but like, it's not going to change much. I think it would normalize it if it was always done. And if it was always done through the commission, at least, that's at least an official statement there. I don't hate it. But I understand why a lot of officials probably aren't going to like that. So, but ultimately, there needs to be better communication between the commission and the people. So that would be helpful. My thinking is too, like, it wouldn't have to come out the night of the fight. Put it out Monday. Have like like the 2-minute report for basketball doesn't come out that night. It comes out the next day.
Yeah. Let everyone simmer down first, then give them the explanation when they're, they've already accepted they lost their bet and stuff like that.
I also feel like commission-wise, state commissions aren't cutting it. I think we need a federal body. That is something that's been shared to me by officials before, and I think
there's still 4 versions of rules that are going around. I think, as far as what constitutes a downed opponent.
Well, yeah, there's that
like
too.
That.
It's all totally fractured with that stuff as well. But I think federally speaking, if you had that kind of thing, you would be able to at least work with every judge more directly, and I think that would help develop them better.
And I think at that point they probably would have one of those schools.
Sure, I would think so.
I don't know if we're ever going to see that.
No, I have no expectations of it, but I would like to see it. Yeah, a lot of these are not viable. Like, we're talking about viability. Some of them really aren't viable, but I do think they'd be interesting. And then the last one I had, and I think this pretty much wraps up the topic here. So we're basically in the home stretch. Better education among media. I say that as media. I've said that before. I'll say it again. All media members really ought to do their due diligence and really understand the way criteria is applied. So that doesn't just mean read the document. I mean, reach out to officials. If you're part of MMA media and you've never spoken to a working official just about the idea behind why certain things are scored the way they are or worded the way they are in the criteria and how that applies.
Called for their head.
Well, especially if that. But no, there's just a lack of understanding. Once we started to get that, we became a lot more educated too. You and me in particular, sir.
I used to have some really strong opinions.
You did.
Come off them. Yes, I have.
You have your own strong opinion. Strong opinions.
I have different strong opinions now.
I obviously have strong opinions
A
too.
more educated opinion, I would say.
I would think so too. A very learned man you are.
Yeah.
You've got the beard of wisdom going on.
Yes. It brings greatness. To
It
me.
does indeed. But
Yeah.
that is it for this deep dive. Very deep dive into a topic. I don't think we've ever had a longer show than this, sir.
No, we went in. I mean, you guys gave us a lot of material.
Oh yeah. I think this is like as exhaustive as could possibly get.
And to be honest, if we had our original plan for this show would have went quite much longer. I think
What was the original plan?
to have a third.
Oh
Third
yes,
way-
that's right.
third way
We
in.
were gonna have a third guest on this one. It didn't quite work out timing wise, and we'll spare the name. But we were very excited to be able to do that, just timing wise.
Mhm.
Especially on my end, this week did not work. I had a very busy week working on. I alluded to this before. I have a feature story, a very long, like a magazine length story on Aljamain Sterling. That's gonna be coming out on New York Post's Sports Plus platform. It's kind of like a subscription thing. Pretty sure you could sign up for a free trial. So I encourage you to do at least that. Read my story. You don't want to stick around? I'm not going to make you. But read my story because I worked very hard on it, and I hope you guys would enjoy it.
Is the book a thing now?
Is the book a thing? What
Yes,
book?
I saw you tweet something that you said.
Oh,
you think you might be able
oh.
to write a full book after this?
It was more the idea behind the fact that I wrote as many words as I did in a day, and I'm like, wow, I really did that? Okay. Maybe I could write a book.
Do you count them with your finger on the screen?
Yes, I sit there and 1, 2, 7,000. No, this particular story was about 5,100 words, but in like a Word document or Google Doc or whatever, there's just like a word counter
Okay.
fidget thing. I mean, we can do a lot now, sir.
I remember in high school you tried to stretch everything out. Like, it has to be this many words, and you're just trying to think to make the longest possible sentences.
Well, I always thought for that it was more like you were going for like page counts.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're writing to like you got to write it like 3-page paper, and that was how you were doing it.
Okay.
No, for this, I'm not trying to be overly wordy. It's just I covered a lot of bases when it comes to Aljamain's. You kind of had to for this article. I had to set it up, especially for kind of more casual readers or casual fight fans who maybe don't really understand even the situation that Aljamain was in. So I had to really break it out and that kind of thing. But also, I think I got some interesting kind of insights into his mind, his mindset, where he comes from. I think it came out pretty solid. So we'll see. Keep an eye out for that on Tuesday. I'll be tweeting it. And he's, of course, fighting at UFC 273, which sets us up for the UFC 273 preview. And let's start actually with the main title fight here, the top billing one, which is Alexander Volkanovski against Chan Sung Jung for the featherweight title. Sir, what do you think of this fight?
We got Alexander Volkanovski's only 2022 fight coming up this weekend.
He might fight again, dude. Chill.
No.
You are unkind to that man.
I like him. He's a good fighter, but he only fights once a year. So I don't like the opponent for it. I wish they waited for Holloway.
I know you don't want Zombie to have it.
Not that I don't have anything against Zombie. I would prefer Holloway getting the opportunity again. I see Volkanovski winning this one rather easily.
I do think he's probably going to run away with a decision here. I don't know. I don't see a finish. I think Zombie's really tough.
Well, yes, he's a zombie.
Yes.
Tough to finish.
He's been finished, of course, but yeah, I could see Volkanovski winning a pretty clear decision here.
Volkanovski decision, no drama.
Now, this one's a little trickier. Sterling, Mr. Sterling, who we were just talking about, is fighting against Peter Yan for the undisputed bantamweight title. He has the, I guess, regular title, and Peter Yan won the interim title while Aljamain was recovering from neck surgery. And of course, everyone knows the weird way in which Aljamain won the belt was because of an illegal knee that was thrown by Peter Yan in round 4, near the very end of round 4. In a fight he was going to, I mean, at the very least, he would have gotten round 4 on the judges' cards as well, so he definitely would have been up. Now, I was talking with officials too, Dan, about this fight in particular, and it was explained to me, and I think Big John more or less touched on this at the time too. It was okay for Mark Smith to call this a DQ. By the book, he's allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Another option would have been to go to a technical decision at this point, even in round 4, late in round 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had done that, there would have been a mandatory loss of points, probably 2 points for Peter Yan. So if that was the case, and if he was going to be up 2 points after round 4, which is how it would have been, Sterling won round 2. He actually won round 1 on one of the cards.
They would have had to turn in a score for 4? So
it would have easily been able to turn in a score for round 4 because we had a clear winner of that round at that point.
So it would have been a 9-8 for Aljo.
It would have been a 9-8 round for Aljo, yeah.
Okay.
But really, when it comes down to it, you're just talking about on 2 judges' cards, Yan won 3 out of 4 rounds, but he lost 2 points, so it comes down to a draw on those 2 cards, and then it would be
and he was
Sterling was up on the other one.
He was up on another card by 2 rounds, so he would have been up by 3 rounds on that judge's card.
Well, one judge gave 2 rounds. I'm forgetting off the top of my head which judge, but one judge had it would have had it tied essentially through 4 rounds without the deduction.
Right? Yeah.
So it would have been a majority draw, with Sterling getting the fight on one judge's card.
Okay.
So that's really what we're talking about here. And it's more like, what would have been the more elegant solution for this situation? Should it have been a DQ? Should it have been a technical decision? I understand there are a lot of people in the officiating committee who feel like a tech decision could have been a better choice here and a draw so that Peter Yan doesn't get the win, but he still gets to keep the belt.
What's the reason for not having it one way to do it?
That I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just in the rules you can kind of use your judgment to go one way or the other. I think it's more just left at the referee's discretion. If I understand
guess
correctly.
because something like this, because this foul was just so egregious.
Yeah.
That I guess a DQ does make sense. But say it was an accidental low blow that a fighter couldn't recover from, then maybe you go to the technical decision after the point deduction.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, the weird thing about this position here too in the fight is that Aljamain picks up his hand. He put his hand down to ground himself after a missed takedown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he put his hand down, grounded fighter. Mark Smith sells grounded. He also puts his knee down. Then Aljo picks up the hand, but his knee is still down.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's still grounded. Now, if Peter Yan is not entirely aware, and this is on him,
right?
No matter what, it's on him. No one's. I'm not making excuses for Peter Yan. What he did was stupid and lacked awareness. But if he is missing that disconnect there, potentially, maybe he throws it thinking that he was actually in the right to do it. But it was a blatantly illegal strike. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your intention is. It's still there. That's why intent is kind of always that tricky word, right? I think Kevin McDonald explained that to us on the show a couple of years ago. It's not necessarily you're saying I want to foul him. You're saying I wanted to throw that strike.
Yes.
I intended to throw that strike. Did you mean for it to be illegal, or did it just happen to be illegal whether you knew it or not? Doesn't matter. It's still thrown with intent. You meant to throw it and land, as opposed to like a low kick, like you're saying, a kick to the nuts. Did you mean for it to land there? No, you were trying to throw something else. It just happened to go there. But anyway, that's kind of the lay of the land of that situation, which I don't think will play out again. So what do you think is actually going to happen?
I think it'll be a competitive fight.
Very definitive.
I don't think that up until round 4, Sterling lost a lot of steam. And up until the DQ, he was losing steam.
By the time round 3 comes around, he's already
pretty
fading.
handily.
He says it was because of poorly managed nutrition that day. That's his reason.
I mean, it was such a fast pace first round and second round that I think I'm leaning on Sterling. I think Sterling's going to win here. I think he can win a decision. I think he can win by submission as well. I think
that's bold.
I think also we can say Peter Yan just destroys him is possible too.
Sure.
But I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling. Round 4 submission.
Okay.
Rear naked choke.
That is bold. I think I'm going to say Peter Yan wins it. I think it's actually going to be a very close decision. That's how I see it going.
Here's the thing. I've seen Sterling sub some really high-level guys on a regional, like high-level jiu-jitsu guys on regional level, and I just have that bias in my head.
Sure.
So that's where that's coming from.
You do love your CFFC guys.
Like, I've seen the guy be so dominant, so I kind of just have that stuck in my head that he's going to do it again. But I think it will be very competitive, and I'm going to pick him. Okay.
This is, of course, in Jacksonville, Florida. We will have Florida commission in charge. You will be there. That's true.
I will be in attendance. I am the 4th judge to that one guy's suggestion.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you're going to think of your seating position based on your ability to score a fight.
I am going to score fights from my seat on Twitter, maybe.
Where are you sitting, by the way?
I'm in section 113.
So like lower bowl, I guess. Somewhere.
Lower bowl.
Probably with like a terrible
midway.
view.
No, I think I got a good view.
You think so?
I'm on the side. I spent enough money for it, so I better have a good view. I made sure I wasn't on the floor because I think floor seats, unless you're row 1 or 2, are probably absolute awful.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yes.
So yeah, we're elevated. I hope I can see nicely into the cage and get a good view.
And of course, the judges for this one, being Florida, typically Florida for a UFC event, they'll bring in some of the better traveling judges, or better, some of the very experienced traveling judges is what I mean. And then they'll also bring in some of their, I guess, more well-regarded judges in the state of Florida, that, in their opinion, at the very least.
Like Troy Winklepaw.
Troy Winklepaw. I would be surprised if Barry Luxembourg and Troy Winklepaw were not on this one. I don't know what they're doing this weekend, but I mean they traditionally are, so I have no reason to expect otherwise. Probably Chris Lee is a Florida guy. I'm sure he'll be there. Is Sal D'Amato not going to work a Florida event? Probably not. I'm sure he's there.
Catch him on the beach afterwards.
Yeah, maybe.
Just chilling.
Maybe he'll go to the beach. Maybe I don't know. Who knows?
Just fly back home.
It'll be solid judging though. I have no reservations about it like I do when they go to Texas, especially Houston. But what other fights on this card are of interest to you, sir?
I mean, Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns.
Who's that?
Khamzat Chimaev.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him?
No.
Darren Till's new bestie?
I've never heard of that. He has a friend? That's great. Yeah. I'm glad that Darren has a friend.
They're everywhere.
They are. It's funny. What do you think of that one against Gilbert Burns?
Jeez, here's my true thoughts.
Okay.
I'm putting money.
I like those.
I'm putting money on Gilbert Burns because it's just such a disrespectful line.
What is the line?
I think he's like plus 400.
Okay.
Which is kind of absurd. But also, what Chimaev has done to his opponents up to this point is kind of absurd. If he takes Gilbert Burns, walks him across the cage like he did the Leech, talking to Dana White, telling him craziness, and then just chokes him out. I mean, the guy's for real at that. I mean, he is for real.
He is for real.
But like to do it to this high level of opponent, that would be like just book Usman him now. Skip Leon again. Like, what can he say?
I think you can let him wait until the end of the year. But yeah, I think if he goes out there and he wins impressively, and I have a lot of regard for Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert Burns is a former lightweight. And Khamzat is someone who realistically at some point could be competing at light heavyweight down the line. I could see that for him.
That's a big jump, though. You think he can get that fat?
I don't know. I could see it. I really could. If I'm not saying he's going to anytime soon, but like he's got a big frame.
Oh, that's for sure.
And that's why I think ultimately welterweight may not be very long for him, and he might move up to middleweight sooner than later. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's probably going to win. I think it's going to be pretty impressive, Chimaev, and I think you have to give him the next shot after Leon Edwards. But just let's let them fight. Just get it over with.
I'm hoping to see something crazy and awesome. That's really my prediction.
Okay. We also have Mackenzie Dern going against Tisha Torres at 115 pounds. I am supposed to be talking to, I mean, this is past tense at this point because you're listening on Monday, but I had a interview scheduled with Mackenzie for Sunday for my post-fight interview for the week.
So we don't know it now, but you will know it by then, the time you're listening. It's kind of past and for future tense.
That's right.
Yeah.
I occupy all time, all at once. So look out for that on Wednesday. She's got Tisha Torres. What do you think of that one?
I think she'll get back in the win column, Mackenzie Dern.
Sub, decision,
knee bar.
DQ?
Knee bar.
Okay.
Round 2.
I'm going to say decision. Tisha's hard to finish, but I will say Mackenzie Dern.
Not with a knee bar.
I mean, she's won before that way. Ian Gary, I'm looking forward to him. He is back in the cage for the second time in the UFC. He's got Darian Weeks. They're bringing him along slow at 170. I like the kid. I think he's got room to grow, especially in striking defense. But at this level, I think he should still be able to shine. So I'm going to say Ian Gary by round 2 TKO.
All right. I'm going to remember this, Scott. I like this kid for when he turns into the second coming of Conor McGregor, and you hate him. But yes, I'm gonna agree with Ian Gary. TKO round 1.
Fair enough. Julio Arce, who was actually my most recent subject of the post-fight interview. He's a Queens guy, so very local for the New York Post. He's going against Daniel Santos, so I got to shout him out because he was on my part of my weekly feature. What do you think for him? Well, I don't know if you know much about either of them, to be honest.
No, I like Arce.
Arce's been around. Yeah.
So it's Daniel Santos's first his UFC debut.
And he's been delayed a few times.
I know. I typically go against debuts though.
I do. Yeah, I also do, and especially he hasn't actually had a fight in like 3 years or 2.5 years or so.
But it's
just
also
because of delays.
But it's also a gross.
What?
I had something on my nose.
Nice. I didn't see it, but
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
You could have gotten away without telling anyone.
I got to go with experience here. I'm gonna go Julio Arce.
I will as well. I'm gonna say Arce. I'm gonna say decision, but I think it'll be fun striking. I understand Santos is kind of a
Lighter
spinning.
weight
He's kind of a spinning guy.
I mean, the thing is, bantamweight and flyweight, the finishes are it's kind of weird. You get more at bantam than you do at fly,
Interesting.
even though they're not that much.
Probably
bigger.
just the makeup of the divisions. Maybe more
It's
wrestlers or
possibly.
something. I don't really
Yeah.
know. Anything else, sir?
Well, yeah, New Jersey's on the card. Mickey Gall.
So you're incredibly biased here. You're not a journalist, so you can do what you want. I don't care.
Well, Mickey.
I wouldn't do that, but that's fine.
Mickey Gall is he's gonna win this. I don't even know who he's fighting.
He's just going to destroy whoever he's fighting against.
Yeah, rear naked choke.
Winner by murder.
Rear naked choke, first round.
Okay.
Who's he even fighting?
I actually, can you pull that up really quick? Because I don't have that.
He is fighting. Where is he? Oh, Kay Hansen's also on this card. She's back at 115.
Who's she fighting?
She's fighting.
She should be at 15.
Piera Rodriguez.
Okay.
Mickey Gall is fighting Mike Mallet, who is also making his UFC debut.
I will pick Mickey just because I don't know that much about. But I'm going to say Mickey. I'm going to say Mickey sub round 2.
Okay, that's good.
Mickey Gall round 2. Dan, that was a long one, but we are done. Thanks for everyone for listening.
Yeah, I think we hit 2 hours.
That is wild. This will probably be the first and last time we'll do that. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you appreciated the thought that went into a lot of these suggestions, and I hope you realized that some of them were terrible.
Yes, there was a lot of terribleness there.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week and enjoy the pay-per-view.
Thanks, everyone.